Welcome back to the Inside Theater. I'm Lori H. Schwartz. I'm your host for today, and I am so excited to introduce our first speaker of the day. How's everybody doing? Good. Remember what I need, youngest. Woo! All right. So we are going to introduce the head of the National Association of Broadcasters, and he serves as the chief advocate for America's free local television and radio broadcasters. He is really leading broadcasters at an important crossroads for our industry and fighting for all of you for policies that ensure broadcasters are able to innovate and serve their communities. It's so important. Please welcome the NAB president and CEO, Curtis LeGeyt. Let's have a big New York welcome for Curtis. Come on, everybody.
Thank you and welcome to NAB Show New York. I want to thank you all for being here. We really appreciate it, and I think we've got a great event here for you. We're excited to host more than 12,000 of the industry's business, creative, and technical professionals in the city of New York, the vibrant hub of media and entertainment on the East Coast. And we welcome our first-time attendees, more than 30% of you, to this year's NAB Show New York. There's nothing more important to NAB than bringing this community together. And this year's theme of Connect and Discover underscores the value of in-person experiences and the opportunity you'll find here. Over the next 2 days, you will explore and connect with the products, trends, and people propelling broadcasts, media, and entertainment to a whole new level. This event provides a different kind of experience than the NAB show in Las Vegas. If you attended that show, this is a unique opportunity to revisit the new technology and partners you uncovered out there to dive deeper into your conversations and those partnerships. And if you've never attended NAB show, this event will provide a best of type look at the tech and tools that are driving change in the industry. NAB Show New York will also spotlight new innovations and implementation strategies around topics such as AI, cybersecurity, streaming, virtual production, elevating the viewer and listener experience, monetization strategies, and more. Our show features more than 260 exhibitors this year, 50 of them here for the first time. Be sure to take advantage of sessions and networking activities within our Insight Theater and Tech Chat stage. Your badge also gives you access to the AES Exhibit Hall, our co-location partner. So if you're looking for more audio solutions, visit their exhibitors right next door. Finally, I'd like to highlight 2 more features at the show this year that I would describe as can't miss. The Photo Plus Video Lab. This all-new interactive destination is designed for photographers and independent creatives. Anchored by Fujifilm, it includes a theater and hands-on shooting bay and post-production experience. And the Cine Plus Live Lab. Backed by popular demand, this expanded area features demos from Sony and Panasonic showing how cinematic tools and techniques are delivering an elevated live broadcast experience. It also offers a behind-the-scenes look at the HBO Camera Assessment Series. And if you haven't done it yet, it's not too late to sign up for one of our conference programs, including new additions, the AI Creative Summit, the Visual Storytelling Conference, and our Broadcast Content Summit, which cover the latest trends and technologies shaping the future of media. I want to thank you again for being here, and I hope you enjoy your time making meaningful connections to the people, products, and information that will fuel your business and elevate your craft in the coming year. Thanks also to all of our partners, exhibitors, and sponsors for their support. Now, without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, Evan Shapiro. For those of you who were here last year, you'll remember that Evan gave a dynamic and insightful presentation that received such overwhelming feedback, we just had to have him come back this year. And we are so pleased he could join us again. Evan is an Emmy and Peabody Award-winning producer of film, TV, and podcasts. He's also a professor at NYU, and Fordham University Schools of Business, and co-hosts a podcast called Cancel Culture. Known for his visual charting of the industry's continued evolution, we look forward to hearing what he says about the next era of media. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Evan Shapiro.
Hi, everyone. Okay, I'm not going to give up. Hi, everyone. Okay, great. So for those of you who know who I am, cool. For those who don't, I'm going to put a lot of data up on these screens. So if you want to move down so that you can see them a little bit easier, it might be helpful to you. But if you're just here for a nap, that's okay too. I'm here to talk about what's next in media and entertainment. I think there's this misperception that we're coming to what's next, that what's next is around the corner, that what's next is maybe a few years off. And that's absolutely untrue. What's next is already here. It started a few years ago when Disney went direct to consumer, picked up 10 million subscribers in its first month, surpassed Netflix in total worldwide subscribers in less than 3 years, and then fired their CEO 90 days later. We are now in a different era. If you do know who I am, you may have seen this map of the media universe that I make a couple times a month, size in the media ecosystem by market capitalization of the biggest corporations in it. You can see here I've put the big tech Death Stars next to the traditional media players, sized by their valuation. And I did this because math is important. But also to show the unfairness of the current ecosystem that we live in. Yes, Apple is in the media ecosystem. Your flashlight's on, sir. Apple is in the media ecosystem. And they are a media player. And they're competing with Disney and Netflix and Paramount Plus and Disco Brothers, using the revenues they get from their iPhones to invest in television and audio and news at a major loss just so that they can take over big chunks. I first made this map about 4 years ago. It was meant to not be a prognostication that big tech was going to take over media. It was meant to be a pronouncement that it had already happened. I made this new map of the media ecosystem a few years ago, actually a few months ago. And this shows the media ecosystem not by corporate structure, but by revenue and by community. The left-hand side of the map is sized by revenue. The right-hand side of the map is sized by community. And what you can see here is these sectors take up a different amount of space in this ecosystem, and their users vary by platform and by format. But they all compete for the minds, the hearts, the dollars, and the attention of our consumers through the same screens every single day. This is the view that consumers see of the media and entertainment ecosystem when they pick up that first piece of glass every morning. And they reprogram their bundle, their personal bundle of media and entertainment and information in their system settings, on their phones, with their thumbs, every day. Not once a month when the bill comes, not once a year when the contract comes up, but every single day. The last map was meant to show you that big tech had already started taking over media and entertainment. This is a pronunciation that the new era of media has begun, as I said, 3 years ago. We are now in the user-centric era of media. The user is the center of all of it. Jeff Bezos wrote a memo about this on his website called Amazon. You may have heard of it a couple of years ago, actually 20 years ago, prognosticating that this is where we're going to be. Well, we are here now. The user has all of the power. We've been ceding them this power for 25 years. And so it's confounding in earnings reports to hear the old white men from Hollywood continually be confused as to how the consumer got so much power. Well, we gave it to them. Now they have it. They're in control. And that's why you're seeing the fits and starts in the media ecosystem that you're seeing on a regular basis. When you think about the world of the user-centric era of media, you have to think about, I know this is crazy, the users, the consumers. We now live in a world where 2/3 of the global population is under the age of 40. So if you're over the age of 40, for the first time for many of you, welcome to the minority. It's a little uncomfortable. The United States is a little less under 40 than the rest of the world, but it is still majority under the age of 40. So if we're sitting in boardrooms in ivory towers making decisions about our media companies with only people over 40 in the room, and we seem to not be able to land with our consumers, this is one of the reasons why. So it's good to know what the population is. It's good to understand who we're trying to serve. Now let's get inside the minds of today's modern media consumer. We polled with Publishers Clearinghouse 27,000 people. This is not a 2,000 person sample. This is not a 1,000 person sample, which are adorable and often wrong, but this is a 27,000 person sample. And we asked consumers, what do you plan to do with your suite of subscription services over the year ahead? This includes music and sports and news and video, all subscriptions. And what you can see here is they said many different things, but only 7% of the consumers said that they plan to stick with the current suite of subscriptions that they have right now, just 7%. Now, math is not my best topic, but what I understand is that means that 97% of consumers are rethinking some or parts or all of their subscriptions that they have in their home on a month-to-month basis, ready to switch out, ready to cancel. When you think about consumers and how they buy things, I think there's this misperception that younger consumers are not willing to pay for content. That is actually the opposite of the truth. Does anybody here have any children in their home under the age of 15? Okay, is that kidnapping or... Sorry. So raise your hand again if you've seen weird credit card charges on your monthly bill for things like skins and Minecraft and those types of things, right? They pay for content. They're using your money, but they pay for content. Who here knows somebody under the age of 25? Some of you do. Maybe get out more. All of those, who knows here somebody under the age of 25 who has a Spotify subscription? Right. So we've trained the youngest, most diverse, most tech-forward consumers on the face of the earth, 3 generations of them, to want to understand that they need to pay for content that they want most. Don't get me wrong, they don't always want to pay for content. Sometimes they want a lot of free content, TikTok, YouTube. But they do understand that for the content that they want most, for the experience that they want best, they're going to have to pay sometimes. And when you ask consumers under the age of 27, what is in their consideration set when they pay for content, when they subscribe to something? This is 500,000 surveys around the planet Earth by GWI. Again, not 2,000, not 5,000, 500,000 survey respondents. And what you can see is the relevancy of the content, the number of exclusive originals, the refresh rate, the library size, all come before cost. Now, in hard economic times, these inputs may change. But remember, this survey was taken during what would be considered some hard economic times. And cost comes in 5th place after the relevancy, the size, the refresh rate of the content. Content is still king. Content that matters to me matters most. And by the way, all of this comes way before of whether or not there's ads or there are no ads. And so the advertising experience, which we all kind of wring our hands about on a month-to-month basis, the consumer is totally agnostic to whether there are ads or not in their content based on what they pay. Much more important is what is the content and how relevant is it to me. By the way, ease of use of the platform is almost as important as cost and more important as limited ads. Foreign content, I know this is crazy, these are consumers under the age of 27, but yes, content from around the world that opens my eyes and opens my minds matters almost as much as whether there are ads or not in the content. And so content and the relevancy of the content to your consumers will always matter more than anything else. So the business model will always run around and run through the kinds, type, and amount of content you have on your platform. Hub Research, this is a smaller piece of research, 3,000 people, asked consumers, what is your must-have media? Media, the top 5 media that you cannot do without. And what you can see here is that there's actually a lot of similarities between people over 35 and under 35. Number 1, for both constituencies, social media. Social media is usually the first piece of media any consumer checks out on any given day. The first thing you check out when you open up your iPhone? Your Facebook account, your Instagram account, raise your hand if that's true. Okay, some of you. Right after that, premium streaming SVOD. Now, that's not meant to just be Disney there. That's all premium SVOD. And then after that, music for younger people, MVPD, so cable TV for people over 35. Music appears for both. FAST, free ad-supported streaming television, appears for both. You can see for younger people under the age of 35, the vMVPD, the YouTube TV, the Spectrum Reach, the Hulu Live is actually gaining tremendous amount of importance. There are a lot of millennials who are finding that they miss the television experience of their youth when they can't get it. So you're going to see the rise of the vMVPD. As the MVPD declines, the vMVPD will become more important, especially as companies like Charter and Comcast can bundle virtual cable in with things like streaming services and, crucially, mobile and broadband. The triple play is dying, but it's being replaced by a new suite of services in the home. When you go into the brand-specific question of must-have media, you can see there's a bit of a bifurcation here, but a lot of similarities as well. When you ask specifically about brands and not necessarily just platforms, you can see Spotify's super important, one of the lowest churns in all of media. YouTube appears for both constituencies. Interestingly, PlayStation, when you go back here, gaming appeared for both people over 35 and people under 35. When you look here, PlayStation Plus appears for both constituencies. 50 million paying PlayStation Plus subscribers around the planet Earth. Over 35, reading subscriptions, number one. So that's things like the New York Times, Apple News, my newsletter, Media War and Peace, which you can subscribe to right now. And Netflix comes in into the top 5, but in 5th place. So yes, theoretically, SVOD is super important to me. I can't do without it. But when you drill down to the brands, only one of the SVODs pops up into the top 5, and it pops up in 5th place. This is the spectrum. This is the bundle that consumers reprogram for themselves. And they do this across a span of different services, paid and free. When you ask consumers how many total media sources do you have, over the age of 35, the average consumer has 11 different media sources, free and paid, that they use on an ongoing basis. Well, under 35, they have 16 different free and paid media sources that they program for themselves on a regular basis. However, when you ask them how many of these are must-have, less than half are must-have for both set of constituencies. Now, if you remember the last piece of data I did math on, that means that 93% of consumers are rethinking more than half of their media services on a regular basis. So if you're a media provider, if you're a publisher, your job, your goal, your must-do is to be in the top less than half of media sources that your users use on a regular basis. Just because they use you today doesn't mean you're a must-have. You know how to be must-have? Make them use you every day. Not a couple times a week, not a few times a month, but every single fucking day. That's how you become must-have. So this is the Maslow's hierarchy of feeds that the consumer today is looking to satisfy for themselves on an ongoing basis. This is the set of itches they're looking to scratch when they wake up and pick up that first piece of glass every morning. When you think about your intellectual property, when you think about your publishing business, when you think about your media business, you have to ask yourself, am I in all these areas? Do I touch all these needs? If not, there are plenty of companies who do. And if not, consumers are going to be spending time with other forms of media while they're not paying attention to you. Doesn't mean you have to have your own social media platform, but what's your social media strategy? Doesn't mean that you have to have 12 podcasts, but do you have an audio strategy? These are the needs that you want to try to serve your consumer or be left out on the outside looking in. This is what the television landscape looks like right now. These are the OEMs, the manufacturers, the publishers on a global basis. You can see it's pretty fragmented. The largest television manufacturer on the planet Earth only has a 15% market share, Samsung. However, not only do they now make TVs, but they're also publishers. They also put content out on a regular basis. Samsung TV Plus. Roku, not just a manufacturer of televisions and an operating system, but also a channel business. Google, not just a platform with video and audio, but also the maker of the fastest growing connected television operating system on the face of the earth. Amazon, not just Prime and Freevee and Twitch, but also the manufacturer of Fire. This is a major battle for the eyes and hearts and minds of television consumers around the world, and it is incredibly fragmented, and it's going to be a very, very tough battle over the looming next 5 years. So if you're a media publisher or a provider of content to the world, if you want to get to your best consumers, the gatekeepers have changed. It's no longer just the Comcast and the Charters of the world, but increasingly it's going to be these big tech companies. Google, Samsung, Microsoft, LG, NVIDIA, makers of the best-selling chips on the planet Earth, Amazon, Apple, and Roku. You need to work with these folks, but you're also very often going to be competing directly with them simultaneously. You have to keep them close and keep them at arm's length. You have to understand your leverage as a content provider, but then also understand their leverage as a gatekeeper to the planet Earth. That's why we used to call them frenemies. I like to call them collaborators. You need to keep them close, but you also need to understand that they're your competitors as well. This is current. This is based on TiVo's research, and this is the current video consumption economy right now. You can see SVOD is taking up the most amount of primetime viewing in the United States. Pay TV is coming in second place. So we talk about the death of cable all the time, but pay TV is still most of television consumption. This is prime time, but if you look at total consumption on a regular basis, around 55 to 60% of total consumption is still pay TV. It's cable and broadcast, but we all know most people get their broadcast through their pay TV provider these days. They don't get it through antennas. AVOD and FAST is actually growing like a weed. It's the fastest growing segment of the video economy. I'm not saying it's going to surpass the other two in any time soon, but it is the only segment that's actually growing. I'll get back to that in a second. And then vMVPDs are actually growing, like I said, quite fast. I'm going to spend some time on local TV. Does anybody here work in local TV? Okay, cool. We did a survey of 60,000. Again, large sample size. This is with Publishers Clearinghouse, great research company, partners of ours. We asked people about local TV. We also did this with TV Rev and Alan Woke. We asked people, do you watch local broadcast? 42% said every single day, I watch local broadcast. Every day, 42%. Again, this is a large sample size. This is a little bit more than directional. However, when you dig into the demographics here, what you can see is under 45, this number is not that big. So never is the largest for under 35. 35 to 45, every day, 30%. And then, as you can see, most of the usage on local broadcast is driven by 55 plus and 65 plus. So this is my generation's and my parents' generation's daily habit. For the rest of the consumers, it's a hardly ever, sometimes once in a while type of thing. However, let's dig in a little bit further. What do you watch most on local broadcast? By far and away, it's news. It's not the primetime schedule coming from the major broadcasters. In primetime, these consumers are watching Netflix. They're watching Amazon Prime. They're watching Disney, and they're watching Hulu. The rest of the day, they're watching local news. So early fringe, late fringe, morning, midday. Even for 25 to 54, what do you watch most? Local evening news. And then sports you can see is important, but even sports is being diminished. It's important on local broadcast. So local news is the number one use case for local broadcast. Local urgent programming, information that I can use in my daily life, is going to be one of, if not the most important part of the video economy in the United States and around the rest of the world for the next 10 years. Not because it's going to be more important than everything else, but because it's rising importance because of world events, because of needs in the community. These are going to be a higher use case than they've been over the last couple of years. And I know this because when you ask them, not do you watch local broadcast, but do you stream local TV and how? Yes, 2/3 of people under the age of 35, 1/3 of people under the age of 35 say, I do not stream my local news. 32%. But that means 2/3 do. 2/3 of people 25 to 54, 2/3 people 35 to 44 stream their local news. The older people don't stream it because we know they're watching it on broadcast. They don't know how to get the app on their television set. So, but it's a very fragmented set of inputs. So sometimes it's fast. News on fast is killing it. I'll get to that in a second. It's one of the major use cases on fast. It's on the station's app. It's on a paid app. It's on a free news streaming app. It's a very fragmented use case, but it is a use case. 2/3 of consumers under the age of 45. So local news is really important. We all need our weather. We all need our politics, our local school boards. These things matter more and more on a regular basis. Lastly, we said, where do you stream your local TV and how? Websites and apps are number one, but again, you can see it's a pretty fragmented use case. But the websites and apps of the local television stations are really, really important. So if you work in local television, think about what's my website strategy, what's my app strategy, what's my fast strategy, what's my podcast strategy, because there is a very urgent need amongst millennials and Gen Zers to get local information and a massive need amongst older constituencies. I'm doing some work with public television right now. One of the chief things that we want to try to do is educate older consumers on how to install the local PBS app on their connected television set and then talk to their kids about that as well. Educating consumers on how to get your content is going to be one of the things that you need most. And then lastly, when you look at this is again from TiVo, 1/4 of all TV time is local. 1/4, right? Most of that is on the vMVPD or the MVPD. Although this fast segment is 6.4%, think about how immature fast is as a use case right now. That number is going to grow higher and higher on a regular basis. All right, enough about local. The economics around television are shifting dramatically and very, very quickly. In the last couple of years, we've seen money stampede very quickly as the audiences have, from traditional television to connected television. That's going to accelerate. That rate of change of money moving from regular old school television to connected television is going to pick up speed every upfront. Started this year. This year, really, the whole ecosystem changed dramatically. Every year from this year forward, it's going to continue to evolve that way. When you look at where the money should go and where the eyeballs are going, it's a really interesting and somewhat complicated story. So again, we know premium SVOD is the most important way that people watch television right now. And you can see, this is a survey by GWI, Netflix is absolutely killing it, without question. They're doing a great job. But then when you look down this panoply here, look at all the various services here. YouTube's number 2, free. Then you have a couple of paid services. Pluto, free. Freevee, free. Tubi, free. You can see it's a mix of free and paid. And so this diet of paid and free is changing and shifting on a regular basis. It's also really important not to just look at the channels, but to look at who controls the channels. So when you add up all the corporately held entities on this chart, add up all the YouTubes, add the 2 Disney properties, Hulu and Disney together, add Pluto and Paramount together because they're combined, add Freevee and Twitch and Amazon Prime together, this is what you get. A completely different look. The conglomerated look of streaming usage on the connected television. YouTube is now number 1. Almost every home in America uses some form of YouTube on a regular basis. YouTube is now the number 1 channel on TV on the planet Earth. 10% of television usage in the United States is YouTube. 10% of television usage in the United States is YouTube. More than Netflix, more than Fox, more than CBS, even when Yellowstone is on. But look at Amazon. When you add up all their use cases, Twitch and Freevee and Prime, they pop over Netflix as well. Netflix has one product, subscription. It's a good product. It does very well, but it's limiting. And it shows you how it limits their ability to compete on the open marketplace. Look at what Pluto does for Paramount when you add Paramount Plus and Pluto together. Pluto was probably one of the great steals in the media acquisition market of the last number of years. It's a massive platform, and it's changing television on a regular basis. By the way, when you go to every other region on the planet Earth, this same thing happens. Netflix does very well, but YouTube is crushing it. One of the major challenges in premium streaming, including for Netflix, is churn, cancellations. You can see it's risen 24% over the last year. If you go to July, 28% year-on-year churn increase. 6% churn average for the industry doesn't sound like it's that much, but that's per month. So that means every 4 months, 1/4 of all streaming subscriptions for premium SVODs is gone. Antenna put out a piece. I think I have that. We did a survey again, 16,000 people with Publishers Clearinghouse. For people under the age of, who here has signed up for a premium streaming service, watch the fuck out of something for a couple of days, then cancel before the next billing session? Raise your hand. Yeah, you're all the problem, man. Serial churning is the new channel changing. It is the main reason for the existential threat in the ecosystem of streaming right now. This is a piece that Antenna just put out yesterday. This is my graph, their data. You can see that 1/3 of all new signups in SVOD this year are serial churners, people who do exactly what you just said you do. So people are going to have 2 or 3 premium streaming services in their home all the time. They're just not going to be the same 2 or 3 every single month. And Netflix is a kind of permanent fixture for now, but not as permanent as Prime. Who here has an Amazon Prime membership? Who here has a Netflix subscription? Okay, about the same. Who here is thinking about canceling their Netflix subscription because they can't find anything to watch? Only one person? Wow. You got to show me what you're watching because I can't find anything. Amazon Prime has this stickiness that Netflix can't match. So Netflix is doing quite well. They picked up a lot of subscribers the last quarter. But with all this competition and kind of the vanilla cheesing of their content, it's going to be difficult for them to not face the same existential threat to churn. Now, churn is not just a subscription problem, though. These businesses all now want to add advertising. Netflix has an ad tier, or so they say. I can't find it. No one's using it. It's not really working, but they have it. They want ads. All the premium SVODs now have ads. I call them SVADs. And these businesses rely on, I know this is crazy, viewership, because you can't collect money for an ad if the ad isn't actually watched. And so if people are churning out on this massive a basis, on a regular month-to-month continuum, keeping the ad dollars in the ecosystem is going to be difficult in and of itself. It's not just a subscription problem. It is also an advertising problem. So the SVODs and the premium streamers out there need to not just solve for satisfying these consumers, they need to figure out ways that are different than just cancel or not cancel. It doesn't have to be a binary choice. What if, I don't know, Pluto and Paramount Plus were the same app? And that when you were done with Paramount, you stop paying, but you're still living inside the Paramount ecosystem, and they can still remarket to you. And instead of having to re-onboard the whole time over again, you just click back on for the paid. What if you only pay when you watch? So you always are subscribed, but you're only paying based on usage. These are different out-of-the-box things. They may or may not work, but it doesn't sound like anybody's experimenting with them, and it blows my mind that they're not, because this is going to break their businesses. Even Netflix is going to have a hard time over the next 5 years making their business work if they can't grow their ad business, and if they fall into this trap, their ad business will never work. I'm going to reinforce this with one more data point. In the first quarter of this year, premium SVODs, writ large as an industry, added 37.7 million new subscribers. Hooray! They also lost 34.5 million subscribers. That's a shitty business. That is not a sustainable business. And that is why you can see Bob Iger pulling his hair out. Okay, so moving on to FAST. It is the fastest growing segment of the video economy, as I've said a couple of times. You can see here the growth trajectory. This is data from Omdia. And you can see the growth trajectory here for the various services. So Samsung grows from 92 million monthly active users, which is not a metric I necessarily understand using, but this is what we're using. 92 million monthly active users, growing to almost doubling to 170 million monthly active users. Roku growing from 102 to 118, Pluto growing from 78 to 118, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Sounds like a lot, right? Sounds like great growth. Now compare this. Does anybody know how many monthly active users YouTube has? 2.5 billion. So you compare this use case to what's out there in the world, and yes, it's growth. Yes, it's impressive. Yes, it's important. but it has to be relatively sized to the entire market to be fully understood. Let's look at the economics. In the United States, Omdia projects that, and this is kind of like, you take this as directional because all the different data services somehow have these numbers. Like it's either 4 billion now going to 14 billion or whatever it is, but directionally it's about the same trajectory of growth. So going from 3.5 billion in 2022 to 11 billion in 2028, 208% growth. By the way, if you go around the world, this growth trajectory emulates itself. Smaller numbers, UK, Australia, Brazil, Germany, big growth. But the numbers are relatively smaller than the United States because the markets are smaller. When you want to put this in perspective, the projection for growth, generally speaking, across the industry is somewhere between $14 to $20 billion by 2028 for all of FAST worldwide. Next year, YouTube will do $34 billion. This year, they'll do $32 billion. So yes, FAST is great. Yes, FAST is important. Yes, you should be looking at FAST as part of the continuum you're making out there. But if you're resting all of your future laurels on this one format and thinking it's going to save your business in and of itself and replace all the revenue you're losing from all these other traditional platforms, not so much. There is a cap to the total addressable market and the total addressable advertising business that this business can do, which speaks to a kind of larger shift that the marketplace is undergoing right now. YouTube is reinvesting its entire business around the connected television. We'll talk more about that in a couple of minutes. They are moving away from the short form. Shorts is an important product for them, but it is not the center of their universe. Mobile is important to them, but it is not the center of the universe. That's why they invested, billions and billions of dollars in NFL Sunday Ticket, because they are about the horizontal 16:9 premium CTV experience. That's where they see their business going. And by the way, they can't do that without publishers like yourselves. So they're moving there. There's a good business for you on YouTube there as well. The video economy is going to really bifurcate into two different use cases with one exception. The premium, lean back, more appointment-based, 16:9 CTV experience in the home, which is going to be most video on the planet Earth. Again, there'll be exceptions. And then the out-of-home, short form, more ephemeral, hour or less session of vertical on the mobile phone. Now, the exception to that is TikTok. TikTok is the exception to almost all rules. It is a premium experience for the users who use it. It is a long-form experience. I know it is short-form strung together, but it is a 90-minute length of stay on average per session. So it acts like a feature film every time somebody logs on. It is creating a series of scenes as a feature film for you, literally called for you on the phone. So it is the exception. But if you look at Snap and you look at Instagram, and even if you look at YouTube, everybody else in social video is going for a more audience extension, more marketing-based, less premium, short-form, ephemeral experience on mobile. And YouTube itself is driving a lot of its viewership and a lot of its business. Most of its business is going to be centered around the connected television. That's not only because of YouTube, but it's primarily because of YouTube. This is the growth trajectory for the video economy right now. And as I said earlier, and this data proves, vMVPDs is actually growing to a certain extent. SVOD is actually shrinking. So the usage of premium SVOD is actually shrinking right now. One of the reasons is paradox of choice. Who here has logged on to their various premium streaming services, couldn't find something, logged on to another one of the premium streaming services and couldn't find something to watch? Yeah, that's happening a lot. And that time when we get frustrated is increasingly being filled with free. So I'm cutting back on my premium SVOD subscriptions from, let's say, 4 to 2. And I'm filling that time increasingly with a combination of AVOD and FAST. Things like Roku Channel, things like Freevee, things like Pluto, things like Samsung TV Plus. That's why when you're thinking about your video strategy, especially your connected television strategy, it's not enough to think about one thing. Hey, I'm in cable TV. Hey, I'm in broadcast. Hey, I'm in AVOD. Hey, I have a YouTube channel. Hey, I have a FAST channel. You have to have a unified CTV strategy. Because we sold more television sets, connected television sets around the world over lockdown than we ever anticipated selling during lockdown. More people have more intelligent televisions than they've ever had in more rooms. So now, rather than watching on my phone, I can go into a different room and watch on that brand new $300 connected television set that I bought, right? And these television sets, the ability to leap from free to paid and AVOD and SVOD and back to gaming and back has never been easier, and it's getting easier every single day. And so you have to think like the consumer. You have to see your world through the eyes of the consumer, and this is how they see that screen hanging on the wall. You need to see it that way too. If you're in the ad business, it's going to be an interesting time. We just exited a massive advertising recession, 11 straight months of ad sales decline. And then we've had a couple of good months in the last 3 with ad sales coming back. Okay, thing number 1, a lot of this is based on year-on-year comparison. So look at the bad months. Look at February 2023. Yes, you're down 8%. Now look at February 2022. Well, of course you're down 8%. You're up 19% a year ago. So some of the ad recession was the irrational ad buying in video and other platforms that was being done during lockdown. That was never, ever, ever going to continue, right? And by the way, yes, July is back up 16.2%, but go back a year and look at last July, down 8.2%. So yeah, great, you're up, but you're up over down. Yeah, math matters. And so we're not back to the advertising economy that we knew. We're kind of trying to scratch our way back to a few years ago levels of advertising. Thing number 1. Thing number 2, when these ad dollars do come back, actually really impressively, YouTube had a really good, or Google had a really good earnings call yesterday. YouTube revenue up 12.5%. So advertising is making a comeback, right? It's being reinvested, but it is not being distributed disproportionately across the ecosystem the way it was pre-lockdown, and it never will be again. It's going to the big platforms, and it's going to the places where the ad buyers know that their dollars work. How do I know this? I asked Magna Global, and what they said when they just readjusted their projections for advertising for this year and next. So in second quarter this year, total ad spend in the US was up 4.4%. Great news. Digital in the second quarter was up 8.7%, traditional down 4.1%. Great news, shitty news. They raised their projections for next year to 5.2%. Digital media up 9.6%, traditional media down 3.6%. 2024, they again adjusted their projections up to 5.6% total, 9.8% digital, down 2% traditional. So the money's not going back to the old school glad-handing, boondoggle, let's grab a drink, Mad Men martinis at lunch deals. Those deals are gone. The upfront was down this year because money is moving out of these big, massive upfront deals into much more performance-based digital marketing where they know the media, when it's spent, it has an effect. I was talking about this earlier. When you look at where the money is going, it's going into CTV and digital. Now, this looks like TV is still doing okay, right? But this is the year that the combination of digital video, social video and digital video, and CTV caught up to traditional television, right? So 2023, I think it's actually going to be 50-50, not 51-49 when the numbers are all counted. And next year, the numbers are going to start tilting dramatically in the other direction. Money is coming out of traditional television and is moving rapidly into a combination of social video, mostly YouTube and a couple of other places, and connected television, FAST, AVOD, and the SVADs as well. Crucially and importantly, the consumers see creator-led social video as a quality equivalent to Hollywood-created, professionally produced content. More importantly for your business, the advertisers now see it the same way. Most advertisers see creator-led content as equivalent to or greater than, based on performance, professionally produced Hollywood content. They move money back and forth between these two ecosystems very easily based on pricing, performance, need case on a regular basis. YouTube, as I said, is now the biggest channel on the planet, television channel. It's been the largest video channel for some time, but it is now the largest television channel on the planet Earth. 10% of connected television usage in the United States. 53% of their users use YouTube on a CTV every day. 50% of the usage of YouTube is now on connected television. And that's going to pick up speed, not lose speed. In fact, I would look at the numbers past this fall. Now with NFL, did anybody sign up for YouTube NFL Sunday Ticket? Okay, not that many. I did. That is going to be a major driver of use. They're going to continue to find new ways to pull people into that horizontal 16:9 premium version of YouTube. And importantly, even when it's called social video, increasingly, look, this isn't a vertical shot from, does anybody know who this is? Mr. Beast. If you didn't know who this is, you got to read more, man. Spend more time with your kids. He's the #1 star on the planet Earth. When YouTube did their upfront, not their new front, but their upfront, they had Roger Goodell on stage, commissioner of the NFL, announcing their NFL Sunday Ticket, with Mr. Beast doing a promotion around this season. Mr. Beast is top of funnel, and he is bottom of funnel. You can buy this Nerf gun in the metadata underneath the video while you're watching. And again, for most of his fans, this is premium video. This is a television show. This has been watched 200 million times. Yellowstone's popular. It has not been watched 200 million times. And that is why Mr. Beast is worth $1.5 billion. I said advertising changed in 2023. It really has forever. I think this is the last year that this quote will be relevant. This quote, half the money I spend on advertising is being wasted. Trouble is, I don't know which half, said by John Wanamaker in 1927. Still relevant, still quoted every year in people's ad sales pitches. I'm quoting it right now. Media buyers are tired of this. They don't want to waste their money anymore. They're looking for different alternatives, and they want to know that half their marketing money isn't being wasted. So you, as a provider of ad impressions, need to be able to demonstrate that their money isn't being wasted when they spend it with you. 54% of the advertisers, brands, and agencies questioned in this upfront said that return on media investment, ROMI, return on ad spend, ROAS, are the #1 metrics for how they're going to buy media. This number is going to rise every upfront forever. It's never going to turn back around. And if you think you're above the bottom of the funnel, great, you're going to lose. It's not about the top of the funnel. It's not about the bottom of the funnel. You know, brand campaigns can have performance metrics put against them. It's about showing a demonstrable effect on the media that is being sold by you to your customers. It's about showing business outcomes for your partners when they spend money with you. It's about going from hearts and minds to hearts in carts. It's about cans in hands and butts in trucks. Look, a performance campaign, a trailer campaign for a movie can have performance metrics around it. Did they complete watching the entire trailer? That's a performance metric, right? If you're not going to understand the new economics of the advertising video economy, you will lose to YouTube, because this is all they do all day long. Meta is going to have a really good earnings report this week. This is all they do all day long. And they are going to take the money because that's where the money is going. AVOD and FAST is on the rise. Again, relative to the whole, though, it's still relatively small. Linear television ads, and this is misnamed. I hate the nomenclature sucks in our industry, almost as bad as the data. But linear television ads are on a steep decline, and this decline is probably going to get worse than what's projected here. You can see where the money is going. By the way, this is advertising money. Look at the rate of growth in gaming. That's advertising money. That's not game sales. That's ad sales. Think about that for a second. So this is where the money is going. And if you're not thinking about being where the money is going, you're going to be where the money ain't. And crucially, this is how it works. The money's going to go where the money works. The money's going to go where the money is, because gravity sucks. 60% of all average spend in the United States goes to 3 companies. By the way, globally, it's about the same. Luckily, you can actually play on all 3 of those platforms. Absolutely. What's your YouTube strategy? What's your Meta strategy? What's your Instagram strategy? What's your Amazon strategy? Amazon has the ability for you to play with them. But if you're not going to play with those three, then you're in the shrinking pies that's left to everybody else. And yes, TikTok matters a lot, as I said earlier, but they're in the other. They're most of that other. They're about 7% of that 9%. But then think about the rest of the digital media who have to, that's why Vox is crumbling. That's why BuzzFeed is crumbling. All of the oxygen is being sucked up by these big tech Death Stars. Traditional is still big, but it's shrinking, and it's shrinking faster every year. Now we're about to add Apple to the big slice of the pie. Apple is going to build a massive advertising business over the next 5 years because Tim Cook knows what he's doing, and he knows that advertising is the future of his business just as much as his services business is. He used his money from iPhones to invest in your business so that he could beat you at it, and now he's going to take all your ad dollars from you. And if you don't believe me, ask Snap and Pinterest and Reddit what happened to them when he changed the privacy settings on his Apple iPhones and called it your privacy protection. Really? Not. Another thing to consider, I talked about CTV as a very fast-growing part of the ecosystem. Very important. You have to have a CTV strategy. But right now, the fastest-growing segment of all advertising is retail media. Retail media. Amazon did $38 billion in ad sales last year, 100% in retail media. They're just getting in the television ad sales business now. This is the first year they've even ever taken it seriously at all, and it's still very small for them. But advertising is huge for them. By the way, Walmart did $2.2 billion in ad sales last year. Instacart will do $1 billion in ad sales this year. So you have to think about, what's my commerce strategy? Not how do I sell stickers and scarves and merch around my branding, but how do I help my advertisers sell products inside my ecosystem? By the way, you want to talk about programming and think about interesting ways to sell programming to new people? What's Walmart's strategy? Talk to them. They have a media strategy. So does Instacart. So does Target. So does all of these retailers have media strategies. Amazon Live, which is their shopping channel, not Twitch, not Freevee, not Prime. Their shopping channel will get 150 million views on Prime Day. This is a big part of the ecosystem, and if you're not paying attention to it, you're going to lose a lot of money. 3/4 of all brands have a bespoke retail media budget that has nothing to do with their mainstream media budget. That's money you can't touch, but you can if you have a retail media strategy. And that's because action is the new CPM. Business outcomes now matter much more than the price of 1,000 eyeballs. Most brands, most advertisers are willing to spend a lot more per 1,000 eyeballs if they understand how many of those 1,000 eyeballs are going to buy something. Actually, it'd probably be 2 eyeballs buying something, but you get, I guess if somebody had 1 eye. Anyway, so the concept here is people will overpay on CPM if they are getting a good price on cost per activation, cost per install, cost per email laid, cost per video completion, cost per actual action taken, action, outcomes, return on media investment. This is the new table stakes. And these companies are massive. So when you look at Google, this is what they look like. Number one across all the 70% of all mobile users on the planet Earth, right? They're just massive. How do you compete with this? You don't. You don't try to play their game, or you do. You play their game with them. You come up with a strategy that allows you to take advantage of their strength. What's your strategy for YouTube? What's your strategy for leaning into what is going to be a massive ad ecosystem that can pay benefits to you and your business over the next 5 years? Think about ways to leverage your content that matter to the ecosystems that matter to the advertisers. Amazon, another one. Not necessarily someone you want to compete with, but are there ways that you can work with them? The other thing to think about here is look at this company. So yes, number one in e-commerce, although e-commerce is not really the profit center for them that it used to be. Number one share of cloud, doing quite well. SVOD, podcasts, live streaming, readers. This is a diversified company. When one part of the business falters, last year retail did really poorly for them. Cloud and ads kept them afloat. Google had their cloud business slowed to only 18% growth last quarter. So they got hit by Wall Street. But their YouTube business and their ad business and other parts of their business grew astronomically. These are diversified suites of bundled services for consumers and advertisers. You need to learn lessons from these companies if you want to survive in the user-centric era of media. You can't just have a business. You have to have a business that has multiple levers on it. If you do not, you're going to, and that one revenue lever you have, this is why Netflix's stock plummeted over the last couple of years. They had one revenue lever, subscription. And the second it hit a bump in the road, their stock plummeted. This is why Roku is having so much issues right now. They have one revenue lever, and anytime they have a bad quarter, even a remotely good quarter, their stock still takes a hit because they don't have anywhere else to go. They've painted themselves into a corner. Don't fall into this trap. And if you think to yourself, oh, well, I can't act like a big tech Death Star. They're so big and have so much money. Yeah, okay, fine. Let's look at a different use case, the New York Times. This is a family-run. This company is literally called the Old Gray Lady. That's their nickname. In 2010, this was a print and paper business delivered by people in trucks. This business was down and going south. In fact, many people, including myself, thought this business was just toast, was never going to rebound. And everybody in digital media, the BuzzFeeds, the Voxes, the HuffPos, all were spiking the ball on them and making fun of them and saying, we're going to take over the world. It's a mass business. It's just about advertising. And what these people did was they hired someone from outside the ecosystem, Mark Thompson, somebody who had never worked in commercial media in his entire life. And he came in and he changed everything. He reoriented the newsroom from print to digital. He reoriented the subscription product from print to digital. He reoriented the business from advertising to subscription. He explored different areas. They went from an analog, the most analog business, print and paper being delivered by trucks, to a almost purely digital business in less than a decade. He did so by hiring a lot of interesting people from outside our ecosystem. He did it by hiring a bunch of 20-something and 30-something product managers and empowering them to make decisions at their level without running everything up the flagpole to make every single change. I say that in many rooms full of C-suite executives. You can hear the rectums clenching. That is part of the use case. And all they did was reinvent the way that, by the way, without changing their mission remains educating and informing the world. That has not changed. They have the best machine learning, AI-driven subscription black box ever. Try to desubscribe from the New York Times or whatever you subscribe to. And they, by the way, they slice up their subscriptions. You can subscribe to food, you can subscribe to news, you can subscribe to sports, you can subscribe to whatever you want, right? Try to desubscribe. The machine goes, nope, nope, can't quit me, can't quit me, can't quit me. Always finds a way to keep you hooked into the ecosystem. And by the way, they wrote about it on their Medium blog, and they explained it to you. I don't know that I understand it all that well, but it works. I am still a subscriber, and I still get home delivery of the New York Times on paper and ink on Sunday. They are the best podcasting publisher on the planet Earth, by far and away. Yes, iHeart is bigger, no question about it. But look at the businesses inside these podcast businesses. iHeart has 364 million worldwide streams. They also have 809 podcasts. Could you imagine producing 809 podcasts? I'd rather have my teeth pulled out. 40,000 people, average audience per show. Meanwhile, the New York Times has 12 podcasts, almost 1 million listeners per podcast. Which business would you rather be in? And they reinvented podcasting with The Daily, by the way. When they launched a daily news podcast that was 20 minutes long, most podcasts at that point were an hour and 25 minutes, or whenever it ended, two guys talking into a mic. Yeah. Now, 20 minutes, give me one story, give me the news that I can use while I'm walking the dog or doing my run or taking my morning shit. That is a product I can absolutely use. And they reinvented podcast almost single-handedly as a result of that. Their food product is a massive subscription product in and of itself. They produce television, award-winning television for other platforms. They are in the gaming business. Remember when I talked about mobile gaming? I talked about the ad business in gaming. Who here uses some or one or any of the New York Times gaming? Yeah, they are a massive gaming business. They have their own gaming app. It is a big product. It is mostly female. Mobile gaming users around the world, by the way, 63%, we just did a survey with Publishers Clearing House, 63% of people between the ages of 25 and 54 say they game on mobile every day for at least an hour. 63% of this is not kids, and most of those 53% are women. This is a great, if you have a news product, if you have a video, if you have any kind of intellectual property and you are not thinking about how to get into a gaming type business, then you are leaving the attention, the mind share, and the money to someone else who will. If I had said to you 15 years ago, New York Times is going to be one of the best gaming businesses in the entire planet Earth, you would have called me crazy, right? They are one of the best gaming businesses in America and probably around the world as well. They bought a sport, and they know when to quit too. So they bought The Athletic, who told the New York Times they were going to put them out of business. They bought The Athletic, added 1 million subscribers to their ecosystem overnight, and then got rid of their regular sports department, which was terrible anyway. Let's be honest. The Athletic's a much better product. And by the way, all it's doing is working like gangbusters. The revenue's up and to the right, and look at how their CEO describes their business. With each passing quarter, we see more proof of strong demand for our bundle of news and lifestyle products. A lifestyle bundle, a hierarchy of feeds, gaming, sports, news, entertainment, food, video, television. So you don't have to have trillions of dollars. You don't have to be a big tech Death Star. You can be an old legacy media company. You can be the old gray lady and transform yourself into a company that can survive and win in the user-centric era. But you have to want to change. You have to be willing to make the kind of change, the hard kinds of change, having the hard conversations with people, and having people in the room who have decision-making power who may not look like you or be your age, who know who the Beatles are. This is how consumers see the world through their first lens when they look it up. This is how they program their own bundle of media and entertainment with their thumbs and their system settings on an ongoing basis. This is the hierarchy of feeds that they're looking to satisfy on a regular basis. You need to be thinking about it the way that they do. If you're not, that's okay. Tons of companies want to instead. This is how they see the world through that first piece of glass. If you want to satisfy all their hierarchy feeds, when you think about your IP, you have to think about the husk and all. You have to think about being everywhere your consumers are, because you need to build your business around them, not make them fit into your business. There are 7 rules of gravity for the user-centric era that I think are necessary to look at and operate by on a regular basis. And if you can stick to these 7 rules, I think you have a great chance to win. If you think that some of these don't apply to you, again, there are tons of companies who will apply them to themselves. Video, audio, social, and gaming are not silos. They are a bundle of services that consumers program for themselves. You need to try to be in all of them as much as you can. Subscriptions and advertising are not oppositional. They are complementary, nor are they the end of the entire IP-based revenue continuum. Euro-America is no longer the center of the media universe. The fastest growing 20 economies on the face of the earth are in Latin America, Asia, and Africa. If you're not exploring opportunities in those territories, you are going to be competing in a very fragmented, mature market in North America and Europe. Good luck to you. Publishers must work with big tech Death Stars, and they must compete directly with them at the same time. These are just the rules. It's inconvenient. It's uncomfortable. I don't necessarily want to do it when I wake up in the morning, but this is just how the rules of the road work. The fastest way, however, to lose control to the big tech gatekeepers is to cede control of your audience's to them. You must be speaking directly to your audiences on the platforms that they are. That's why you may not make money on social media, but you need social media to talk to your consumers, because those consumers are how you make money. So understanding how to transport audiences between TikTok and television, between podcasts and video, between gaming and social, these are important things. So you need to have direct relationships with your audience. Great case study for you really quickly. Does anybody know who World of Wonder is? They produce RuPaul's Drag Race, probably one of the most successful format shows in television history. One of the reasons that show is so popular and remains so popular after so many years is World of Wonder has their own relationship with their consumers. And by the way, they started that before they started RuPaul's Drag Race. Quick lesson for you. Commerce pumps the heart of media. It always has. Remember soap operas? They're called soap operas because the soap companies paid for them. So commerce and media go hand in hand. They always have. There's always a sponsor for the content, whether it's the king or the advertiser. Somebody's paying for it. And so you need to figure out a way to be in the commerce business as well. And this is last, and I haven't spent that much time on it, but it may be actually most important. The media has too few people at the top of their companies from the communities that media is supposed to serve most. If you are making decisions around the economics of your business without people in the room who grew up too poor to afford to subscribe to Netflix, you're fucked. If you're making decisions, major decisions around your business, and you have any hope of talking to consumers under the age of 35, and there's no one under the age of 35 in the room when you make these decisions, you're fucked. If you're making decisions about serving consumers, the three youngest generations, the three largest generations, Generation Y, Generation Z, Generation A, these are the most diverse generations in the history of the world. If you don't have people represented in your room that represent those generations, both in race, color, creed, and age, and economics, you're fucked. That's just how it works. I'm sorry to be so harsh, but these are the rules of the road. And you have to understand that we are not coming to next. We are not on our way to next. Next is not around the corner. Change is not down the lane. Change is here. Next is now. Thank you. I am happy to I have no idea what time it is or how much time I have left, but I am happy to take a couple of questions if that's something that my bosses at the conference want me to do. Does anybody have any questions for me? Yes, sir. Say your name before you ask your question, please.
Hi, my name's Gary Krantz. I think I know the answer to this question.
A little bit closer to your mouth.
I think I know the answer to this question, but I noticed on all the media choices that I forgot which slide it was, but what people go to on the when they wake up in the morning. The audio space, whether it's radio, you had podcasts, but radio, satellite radio, streaming audio. Didn't see that up there. Wonder why.
I think that's a great catch. I think that's part of the problem was in the question being asked there. So I think if you put radio there, radio would come up as a much higher use case because we still know that like 80+% of the United States uses terrestrial radio on a regular basis. If you add satellite in there, it's also great. But streaming has a much larger use case right now, so I think that's why they asked that question. And it was mostly around subscription products as well. Hub did that research. I didn't create that questionnaire, so I think that was part of the problem was there is the question. There's a question back there.
Oh, just Elvis.
What's your feeling about next-gen television?
Can you expand on that?
Okay. No, I'm not going to do it then.
What do you mean by that?
It's this thing they have it in Korea and Japan where you can actually click on something on your TV screen and it will allow you to go and buy that.
Oh, yeah. So that to me, yes, absolutely. The ability to purchase on connected television is, I think, going to be one of the most important parts of the video economy of the next 5 years. You know, that idea that we could click on Rachel's sweater and buy it, remember that was always the use case? We're there. So if you're watching a cooking show and you can pull down the whole recipe and have it delivered to your home, ready to cook tomorrow, wouldn't you do that? That's one of the use cases. So you're watching a television show and I can buy the sweater or whatever that is. I think that's one use case. But now think about the ads, right? So I'm watching an ad and I'm like, oh yeah, I actually would like, to get more information on Geico or whatever it is. So the ability, especially with the good remotes, the ones that come with your television that are actually pretty intelligent but have very few buttons, I think the ability, and frankly, I don't have my phone on me, but the ability to make the phone in your hand. So most people have a phone in their hand while they're watching television. 35% of people under the age of 40 shop on their phone while they're watching television. So the ability that we could actually have, and they're all connected to the same IP address in the home, right? So the ability to watch something on television, have it ping my phone, and have the cart open instantly, I don't know why people aren't doing this. The technology exists. Curve is doing this. iBuy is doing this. There's a great ability to make this. Still don't understand why Amazon is not doing this. I have the Amazon app on my phone. I have the Amazon app. I'm watching Thursday Night Football. I think Black Friday when the Jets play the Miami Dolphins, which is actually going to wind up being a very good football game, even though Mr. Anti-Vaxxer Aaron Rodgers won't be playing. I think Black Friday, which is Thursday Night Football, I don't understand why, that shopping experience that Amazon's going to create inside that game is going to be it's going to be a game changer. I really do think you're going to watch it happen in real time that day. And I think the future happens in connected television commerce starting the Friday after Thanksgiving.
All right, one more.
How you doing? Lamu Coker. Given that content is king, there's the rapid growth of the fast channels, expansion of CTV or premium video channels, it feels like the missing piece is curation. Who do you feel is doing that well, or is that the piece that is next to blow up? Because finding the right content is the next big challenge, given that we've got so much of it on our TVs nowadays.
Yeah, the paradox of choice is real. I mean, people, they make less choices because they can't find what they want to watch. I don't think anybody's curating well because the walled gardens prohibit you from true curation, right? So Netflix has only what Netflix has. Disney only has what Disney has. So if you want to curate, it's up to the consumer at this point. I think the seminal moment in time around that happened when Charter and Disney made their last deal. So Charter is now going to have the right to sell Disney Plus and Hulu inside their vMVPD package. That's where we're headed. So every future major deal for streamers and publishers are going to look like that. And so as Xumo rolls out and as other aggregators, Amazon's already kind of an aggregator to this extent. I think being able to get to all of the inputs through one screen and one platform is really important. The problem is really we stopped innovating on aggregation when Netflix was invented. You know what I mean? So the best curator aggregator is Netflix because their algorithm works really well. Now someone needs to put I need to be able to go. Apple TV does this actually pretty well. I can go into Apple TV and hit a title and it'll tell me exactly where to watch it. But discovery is really hard because I'm not finding anything new to watch unless someone tells me to watch Drops of God, great show, Apple TV Plus. I would never have watched it, but I watched the hell out of it in 3 nights. So someone needs to really, and I think it's probably going to wind up being a combination of Amazon, Google, and Comcast Charter that are going to solve this problem in the United States because I just think that they're going to be the central focal points in a way that not everybody else can be.